Once you learn how events work, you'll find that no matter which events you're dealing with, they're all pretty much handled the same way. The type of event and the action that's performed might be different, but the sequence is usually the same. In the next few movies, we're going to practice what we learned about events, and I'm going to focus on the modern event model, the one that allows you to place a single event handler for a group of elements using add-event-listener. I'm going to start by working with an example which uses click events. In case you're wondering why I'm doing click events again, this is going to be a more practical example. And what you'll find is that when you're working with real elements, things are going to be a little bit different, and we'll have to take care of some additional things that you may have not thought of when you're just learning about the events. So here's the setup. We got a page with a series of images, and we want to help the user pick his favorite piece of art from our list by the process of elimination. So when they click on each one of these images, it's going to get rid of them. And then when they click on the last one, it should show them information about the one that they picked. So let's go through the HTML. It's pretty simple. You can see that there's a call to some Google Fonts, call to a style sheet, as well as a call to a script right here. And we have a simple HTML page, and it just has a div with a class of art for the entire element that we're working with. And then it has an unordered list that has a class of grid, and then we have a list item with a series of images. Every one of the images has an alt tag with a description of the art piece. So let's look at the CSS pretty quick. This is super simple CSS. There's nothing here that you wouldn't find on a normal CSS document, except maybe for this line right here that makes the cursor look like a pointer. The reason we're doing that is that we don't have any links, any anchor tags under this list items, but we do want to make sure that when somebody rolls over one of these images, it displays the right cursor. So we've modified the cursor to look like what would happen if somebody were clicking on an element when they roll over one of these images. So let's go ahead and start our script, and I'm going to hide everything else. So I'll start off by using the document and then using query selector. Query selector is one of the more modern ways of selecting elements, and it works pretty much like what you would use in jQuery. You use query selector, and then you use maybe a dot notation to get to a class and type in the descriptor. So right here, we're asking for any element with a class of grid. In this case, that's going to be our unordered list. And then what we want to do is add an event listener right after that. So we'll do add event listener. We're going to ask for a click, and then we want to run a function. Now this is going to be an anonymous function, which just means a function with no name. And we're going to pass it along an event variable. So this is going to be the variable that's going to return the information about the event when we click on an element. So after this, we want to start the curly brackets, and we want to put a semicolon right here at the end. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to just output the event that we get back when somebody clicks on one of these items back to the console. And we're just going to log the event, and we'll just close that out with a semicolon, save this, and switch back into our project. Refresh this page and click on one of these items. Now I need to open my developer tools, so I'll right click and select inspect element. And let's go back. It looks like I got an error here. Document is not defined. Obviously I made a typo here, so I will do document and go back here, refresh, and let's click on one of these items now. So now it should give us the information about the event. And you get a little bit of information right here. But what you want is to open this up and take a look at all the properties you get from the event handler. So we get a lot of different things right here. The one that we're going to be working with is this one called target. Target is going to give us a lot of information about the image, and we're interested in a few of these. So we'll get back to these in a second. It's always a good idea to log the event to the console just to make sure you didn't make a spelling mistake like I did up here. So I'm going to get rid of this, and what I want to do is also add a false right here. This is going to determine how the event gets registered. Remember, if you put true, it's going to be registered in the capturing phase, which means that it would recognize the click on the unordered list first, then on the list item, and then on the image. If you put false here, it means the event is going to bubble, so it's going to register the event first on the image. It doesn't really matter, but false happens to be a little more compatible. So we'll get rid of this now, and we'll create a variable for the target so that we can remove it. So we'll say remove target. This is what we want to remove. And it's going to be equal to eTarget. And what we want here is the parent node. So why do I want the parent node? Well, the target of the click, as you remember, is going to be the image. When you click on one of these items, normally, let's go ahead and hide this. The target or the tool element is going to be this image, right? And we don't want to get rid of just the image. We want to get rid of what's right on the other side of the image, which is our list items. So every one of these images is contained within a list item, and that's what we want to get rid of. So we have to ask not for the element that was clicked on, but for its parent. And then we want to use that variable, and we're going to ask for the parent node. The reason we're doing parent node again is that we want to use a method called remove child. Now, remove child is going to want to reference the parent of the element that you want to remove. So we've got the list item right here, and by calling parent node, we're asking for the unordered list. And then we want to remove a child of the unordered list. We can't just remove the list item because remove child obviously removes a child element. And since we want to get rid of the list item, we have to first get to its parent and then ask to remove a child of that. And the child that we want is the remove target. So it's a little bit circular, but hopefully that makes sense. So let's go ahead and save this and go back into our page. I'm going to go ahead and close this and refresh. And let's start clicking on some of these. So now these elements are being removed from the page. Now there's a couple of problems that you may not be noticing right now. So let me go ahead and refresh this page. This actually works pretty well, but I can click on all of these and remove the last element, which isn't good because we're really trying to pick a piece of art. So it means that whenever we get to the last element, it should sort of give us some information about the last image. The other problem that you really may not be seeing is that if we click on a couple of these right here, and then we click right here, notice that everything will go away. Now, why is that happening? Remember our code. Right now, it's set to remove the parent of whatever we've clicked on. Remember, we asked for parent node right here. So if we click on the image, the parent node is going to be the list item. Now, the problem is that because of the way it's set up, if we click right here when there's no elements right there, we're actually clicking on the unordered list or a little piece of the unordered list since its bounding box is determined by this rectangle right here. And so when we do that, we're going to ask to remove the parent of the unordered list, which happens to contain all of these elements right here. And that's not good. I'm going to take care of some of the problems in the next movie. But just remember that sometimes when you're working with events, you're going to need to take care of not just the event itself, but some of the other things that are related to it.